to serve and defend the emperor. It was among the greatest accolades. You were treated with no more respect than a samurai wandering the streets. The candy-loving idiot from the pawn shop episode, Chumlee, is now permanently imprisoned. His mother sobbed so much in court that they had to assist her in leaving after they discovered 20 accusations against him. The boy who used to make everyone laugh now looks at silent walls. You won't believe what they discovered inside his home. So let's follow the hints that led to his demise. The emergence and decline of pawn shop celebrity. At first they didn't believe it. Many believed it to be noise. Most likely, someone made up a narrative or pulled a terrible practical joke. The story then began to pile up. The facts arrived. Charges, reports, everything. It could no longer be laughed off. This was a severe matter. Not serious about TV, life is serious. Cold walls, cops, and court charges are all really severe. But the part that nobody anticipated, not even the event that would alter everything, had occurred yet. Once he was merely a Nevadan named Austin. He was a normal youngster who was nicknamed Chumlee because someone thought he looked like a cartoon walrus. He wasn't born famous or wealthy. Strange, yet folks recalled that. The name then became more enduring than glue. Corey, his best friend, was from a family that owned pawn shops. When the cameras arrived, that store became a wild place. The show then started. And then there was the celebrity. In a toy store, Chumlee was also behaving like an adult. To serve and defend the emperor. It was among the greatest accolades. You received no more respect than if you had been a street person. Originating from a family of samurai. He did not even try to make others laugh. He was lovable despite saying stupid things and making mistakes. He was referred to as the comic relief and the show's heart by some. Fans loved him for more reasons than just his humor though. Like the man you knew from down the street, who still lived with his mother and messed up his food order, but gave you the shirt off his back, they saw something genuine in him. He began with menial employment at Quiznos and McDonald's. He made every effort to make it, no breaks, double shifts. The pawn shop then became into more than a job. It turned into a stage, and Chumlee rose to fame when the show gained popularity. Nor did he waste his shot. He offered toys, t-shirts, and other items for sale. Because they liked him better than the others, they purchased it. He even founded a business and sold Rick half of it for a substantial sum of money. Man, he was getting up big time. Not every upswing lasts. From six-figure transactions to fast food. Some people fall, and it might look unattractive when they do. He had a Quiznos there by the choruses at one point. I spent 8 hours a day at the Quiznos and 4 hours a day at the pawn store. In actuality, I worked non-stop for 135 days. His entire world was upended one day. Police weren't there to pay a visit. They had a search in mind. They believed he might have committed a heinous act. It's the kind of incident from which people never recover. Legally, that aspect never stuck. However, they discovered more than they bargained for as they were inspecting everything. There was a mixture of problems inside his apartment. Serious problems. Substances, several types. Crystal, marijuana, painkillers, and a number of firearms. Not all of them are lawful. It wasn't a little error. A storm was about to blow up. They adopted him. The stain persisted even after he left the following day. His name was like a hammer to the news. Fans were taken aback. Parents were perplexed. The reporters were probing. The humorous TV personality is currently embroiled in a legal tangle that has the potential to destroy everything. Charges. There were almost 20 of them. Not a small error. They were heavy. Real things, drug stuff, and gun stuff. He acknowledged some of it. He got a deal from the court. Remain tidy. Seek therapy. For 3 years abide by the guidelines. He accepted the offer. Can he do anything else? It was hardly discussed in the media after that. However, people continued to whisper despite this. Some claimed he was permanently imprisoned. He died, according to others. You don't have any money, and you ordered food for yourself. I left my wallet at home, even though I believed I had it here. I believed I was in my vehicle. Anyway, I borrowed $20. The harm was done, but neither was accurate. The internet never forgets. The world is not patient. Every impact was felt by his mother. Not only in her heart, not only in her bones and chest. Her voice became a whisper as she sobbed. In an attempt to recall the youngster who had made her laugh, she watched the reruns, but all she saw was the troubled guy. It was not like TV in that courtroom. There was only a terrified man attempting to keep from collapsing. No background music or second takes. He didn't grin. He had not slept for days or months, as seen by the hollowness of his face. The glimmer had vanished. The fact that stars are individuals was forgotten. The renowned are not immune to such suffering. He made poor decisions. Yes, but he wasn't a bad person from birth. Like everyone else, he was messy and flawed from birth. The only difference is that cameras captured both his ascent and his descent. All this wasn't what Chumlee asked for. Notoriety has claws. It provides and then takes. You sign court documents 1 minute, then autographs the next. And his mother. She still cries into her tea, looks at old birthday photos, prays, and hopes. The show doesn't matter to her. All she wants is her son. He used to smell like fries when he came home. She recalls how he would never fill up the tank when he borrowed her automobile, how he would doze off while watching cartoons on the couch. Her boy is that. Nor the mug pictures, nor the headlines. Sometimes she ponders what may have been while sitting by the window. A restaurant perhaps, a family perhaps, peace perhaps. All she can do now though is wait. Funny videos of him are being shared by fans. His funny knack of stating things incorrectly and his laughs are missed. It's only memories now though. Chumlee is immortalized in such form. It was more than a single awful night. Years of stress, errors, and suffering quickly caught up with them. Nobody is placing blame on anybody else. He made his decisions. However, that does not imply that people no longer care. With her face flushed from crying for what seemed like days, Chumlee's mother sat there with a crumpled piece of tissue in her fingers. Her young kid, who used to smuggle chocolates into the house and chuckle at his own jokes, was now permanently imprisoned. I didn't believe it. The same thing was whispered by every picture on the wall and every memory in her heart. This was not intended to occur. For a while, everything was fine, but then it wasn't. In the beginning, Chumlee was just a humorous person who hung around a pawn shop in Las Vegas. From sweet dreams to courtroom nights. On television, he was frequently seen making lighthearted jokes. He never took anything too seriously, like that cousin. Being the coolest or the smartest didn't matter to him. He was passionate about bringing joy to others. He was that kind-hearted guy who never forgot his roots. People learned more about him as the cameras continued to roll, and love him, not just know him. They saw him transform from the show's humor into its lifeblood. He had no desire to be flawless. He simply existed. The way he handled himself had a certain quality, melted chocolate or something similar in sweetness. He also had dreams, large ones. He set up a confectionery business outside the pawn shop. Chumlee's Candy on the Boulevard was its name. Just hearing the name was comforting. It was filled with vibrant hues and sweet scents. Gummies in the shapes of bears and worms, jawbreakers and taffy were among the vintage candies that adorned the walls. Children pulled their parents along. Adults entered with big eyes and pointed to the candies that they hadn't seen since they were in school. People adored the shop. Just to see it, they traveled from out of town. Some wished to meet Chumlee in the hopes of obtaining an autograph or a selfie. Bobbleheads, shirts, and even small souvenir keychains with his likeness were available in the store. He occasionally appeared, smiling behind the counter or posing in front of the crowd. His enthusiasm illuminated the space like a freshly opened and shaken bottle of soda. But he was carrying a lot of weight behind that lighthearted smile. He became a burden because his body was always larger than most. For years he battled his weight, attempting every diet plan known to man. Leafy greens, smoothies, and avoiding red meat. He shed more than 75 pounds by working out nearly every day. Despite the difficulty, he persisted. He said that he was doing it for his health and for his then-girlfriend, whom he adored. But there was more in the back of your mind. Before the show truly took off, his father had died of cancer. He carried that loss with him. He was shaken. He had no desire to take the same route. I didn't have much experience here when I started working the night shift. As a normal 18-year-old, I also believed I knew everything. I purchased 6 phony Rolex watches, so it must have spread across town quite quickly. He wanted to grow stronger, live a longer life, and continue to make people happy. Things didn't feel right, even after losing the weight. He put on a few pounds again. The roller coaster had worn him out. Up, down, and back up. He made a significant and frightening choice. He enrolled in a gastric bypass procedure. Although it wasn't an immediate solution, it was a significant advancement. Following the procedure, the pounds began to melt away. 160. He lost just that much. His life was altered by it. At last, he was able to do things like ride a hovercraft that he had previously only dreamed of, before he reached his breaking point. After Christmas morning, when he was floating like a child, the shadows persisted despite all the advancements. Not only does fame bring attention, but it also comes with pressure. Rumors began to circulate. Then came the legal issues. The specifics weren't appealing. Fans were taken aback. Once associated with candy and joy, his name was now associated with courtrooms and accusations. Chumlee's mother never lost her affection for him. She remained warm even while the media cooled off. She went to see him, wrote him notes, and expressed her belief that he could yet turn things around. Prison, however, is a different reality. It disregards who you were on TV and takes away your routine, comfort, and grin. His store remained operational in the meanwhile. That tiny space, brimming with color and sugar, continued. Still, tourists arrived. Some were taken aback by his absence. Some came merely to commemorate. His bobbleheads were still on the racks. He was still grinning from the candy bags on his face. It resembled a moment in time that had been frozen, unaffected by external events. He was always on the internet. His Instagram featured brief updates, photos of his pets, and insights into his life. One post was very painful. It had to do with the death of his dog, Forrest. He was broken by that. He had found solace in the forest after exhausting days. I occasionally need a little inspiration at work. Tanya Hardy is the human skull that I have. A photo of your mom would have been acceptable. Something inside Chumlee cracked when Forrest died. The update then slowed and eventually halted. Fans began to inquire. Was he all right? What transpired? But there were no responses, only quiet behind the scenes. And the store continued to sell candy. People continued to come. They continued to discuss the good old days. Chumlee used to be able to be found behind the counter, giggling at something ridiculous, as you walked in. Now it was as if you were wandering through a recollection. Not all Chumlee was a reality star. He had big dreams. A man who was not afraid to show his emotions. Some folks never saw someone who fought battles. He was shaped by his decisions, weight, and health. Not just the humorous character on film, but the man who created it as well. He had made an effort to mature. He persisted in moving forward from the sweet store to the weight reduction. He tried to make things right even after the legal issues. He was aware of his error. Time was running out for him to improve. Everyone deserves a second chance, according to popular belief. However, the world does not always distribute them equally. Some people are scooped up after falling once. Others keep plummeting. Chumlee went down hard and didn't get back up this time. He is currently incarcerated and reflecting on a life that once shone in the sunlight like a candy wrapper. A life full with love, plenty of sugar, and laughing. Additionally, that small candy store serves as a silent reminder of who he was while he is gone. A location where his memory endures. His mother is still going strong. There is still hope in her heart. She sees the boy who used to bring her chocolate when she was depressed, despite the fact that her eyes are tired from crying. Millions of screens were once illuminated by the boy. The story wasn't finished yet, despite everything. The world continues to move even after the laughter stops. People continue to enter and exit the store. They snap a pic, grab a Coke, and leave. However, some people remember to pause. The weight of what might have been weighs heavily on them. His story, that story, continues in glances and whispers. His mother continues to wipe away every tear, every picture, and every piece of candy sold. His trip has lessons about decisions, second chances, and the burdens people bear on their insides. Even while they are making other people laugh. He was genuine, yet he was never flawless. Even now, when he is silent, Chumlee continues to communicate through his business, his admirers, and those who remember the good times. Even though he is no longer in the public eye, he is remembered. Not by those who still believe, not by his mother. For a while, Chumlee's life was going really well. Like a pro, he was riding that famous train. People were familiar with him from that TV pawn shop show, where he would make goofy comments and make extremely excellent bargains. People were unable to get enough of his endearing, silly charm. There was his face everywhere. However, it was no longer just the store. As part of a new gig, he began touring the nation in search of unique items. Comic books from long ago, neon signs from dusty garages, vintage rock posters, and even items no one realized were valuable. He constantly found the strangest gems when he visited towns of all sizes. It could be a rock star's autographed guitar one day, or it could be a toy from the 1980s that collectors were clamoring for. He had changed from being the hilarious man. People adored this real-life treasure hunt in which he participated. Like a child on Christmas morning, fans watched him rummage through the dusty basement and ancient trunks. He would chuckle, make jokes, and get giddy when he discovered a rare item. Getting paid to travel, meet new people, and find amazing treasures made him feel like he was living the good life. Even if it was simply staring at trash, Chumlee had a knack of making everything seem like fun. His Instagram became silent one day. No updates, no silly videos, no fresh pictures, just silence. People began to inquire. Was he all right? Did he leave the program? Where did he go? No one was certain. Although rumors began to circulate, nothing concrete was revealed. He seemed to have simply disappeared. Then, suddenly, he returned with something that no one had anticipated. A video game. An actual one. Chum's Adventure, The Quest for Pinky was the title of the film. Furthermore, it wasn't a haphazardly created app. This was a very traditional game. The kind you played on those big, blocky-looking, musically appealing consoles. The traditional Chum story. He had to save Pinky, his puppy, from a group of criminals. There were nostalgic undertones throughout the side-scrolling action. You beat up the bad guys with insane moves, ran, jumped, and avoided traps. People quickly became fixated. Fans of the show weren't the only ones who enjoyed it. Collectors, retro gamers, and even those who had never heard of Chumlee began purchasing it. Easter eggs, hidden stages, and a secret reward for finishing the game without getting hit once were all there. It was strange, enjoyable, and completely him. Then, wearing a crazy bathrobe covered in vibrant graffiti, he appeared at Comic-Con in San Diego. It resembled something from an art gallery from the 1980s. He drank his coffee from this adorable mug with mountains and a kitten. He appeared healthier and thinner. In fact, they gained knowledge. You claim that reading a book gives you more. You enjoy having heated arguments, Rick. I dislike having heated arguments. You two make it into a fight. No, you definitely enjoy having heated arguments. It was evident that he had been improving himself. He was grinning, giggling, and displaying his most recent Pokemon card discoveries. He appeared to be a better version of the old friend. He encountered legendary figures in the comic book industry, made memories, shook hands, and took pictures. To see him, fans waited in line. Some suggested he should read bedtime stories because of how soothing and soft his voice sounded. Some only expressed gratitude for his involvement in their early years. There, for a moment, it seemed as though he was winning once more, and that perhaps the worst was over. It was like a kick to the stomach. Chumlee was in major legal problems, according to the news. This was no little matter. It was large. Something that destroys lives. People were incredulous. It wasn't the guy from the show, the guy in the bathrobe in the computer game, but it was real. And everyone was devastated when the punishment was delivered. Prison life. As simple as that. The man who used to make jokes about comic books and hot dogs was no longer there. Locked up. His mother was unable to contain it. Her face was covered with it when she appeared in court. The anguish, the pain. She remained silent. She didn't have to. The tears spoke for themselves. The boy she reared, her son, would spend the rest of his life in prison. No going to the store anymore. Comic-Cons are over. Nothing more. Small and broken, she stood among the crowd. Cameras swung. She didn't look up, though. It was too hefty, too much. Through it all, she had been there. The rise, the crash, and the recovery. However, this marked the end of the path. Some people didn't think it was true. Others became irate. Some claimed to have anticipated it. There were half-truths, hypotheses, and melancholy all over the internet. Although everyone had an opinion, nobody was truly aware of what transpired behind closed doors. People began sharing old videos once more. Chumlee dancing, laughing, and placing foolish wagers on vintage baseball cards. Comic-Con images, fan art, and quotations. It served as a kind of digital farewell, a chance to reminisce about the happy times, before everything went south. The fact that he nearly pulled himself out was the saddest part. He stayed silent, dropped weight, and created something amusing that made people happy. He wasn't acting crazy or going out to parties. He was making things, meeting fans, and collecting cards. He appeared to be headed in a better direction. However, something pulled him back into the shadows. Gone, but not dead. Incarcerated while the world goes on. His store is still open. The program continues to air. Even without him, Comic-Cons go on. His mother still weeps, nevertheless. His admirers continue to be curious. Was he truly at fault? Or did we all contribute to his retreat into the shadows? Leave a comment with your ideas. If you enjoyed this, please remember to subscribe for more.